I think I've been here before, and I'm going to set it up because what has already happened, in my opinion, is pretty remarkable. Big 12 Conference. The Big 12 Conference is, I've got to give the Big 12 credit because it really should have already died or been on its way to a fast death without Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, that's it. You've lost what I call the sugar daddy, but yet the Big 12 Conference, which is currently, season's over now, but currently the best basketball conference in the country, I think has had one of the better football seasons the Big 12 has had, and obviously had TCU in the championship game. I know they got their face kicked in, but top to bottom, football-wise, the Big 12 has really, really improved. And it's been, for years, I think it's been a terrible football league. Not so much anymore. Texas and Oklahoma are leaving, obviously, going to the SEC. That would mean there goes the money. You should die. And the Big 12 is not, it's not the SEC. It's not even going to be the Big 10, which is going to be about 20 teams. But it's finding a way to stay relevant. And the way to stay relevant is scoop up everybody on the West Coast. The Cincinnati, BYU, South Florida deal, it doesn't do a heck of a lot. But if you scoop up what's on the West Coast, you've got a chance. The league has not been sitting around acting like it's Sears. But I have a tip. I have a really important tip. And it's not because the school matters that much. It's certainly not because they're any good in football. It's because of their coach. You need to go get Colorado ASAP. ASAP. Don't wait. The most interesting story is the most interesting person in college football, and I'll take it beyond that. He's the most interesting guy in college football the last 25 years, certainly in the coaching field. College football coaching is full of bureaucratic stiffs. They're not interesting people. They're not dynamic people. They're not charismatic at all. They're stiffs. They're grumpy stiffs. Deion Sanders is now the coach at Colorado, and they are the story of the day. It's the most, he and that team, or really him, is the most interesting story in college football now, and I think the most interesting story of the next couple of years, because I think what happens in the next couple of years is going to be fascinating. I have a few suggestions. I don't think anyone at these powerhouse colleges would bother to listen because he would make them uncomfortable because he is such a star. A star in a good way, though. You can say, oh my gosh, Jeff, he's an egomaniac and he's monopolizing all the attention. It's working. It works. His thing works. I've tried to tell everyone, you don't have to be a football genius to be a successful college coach. What you need to do is sell. And not only does he know the game, the guy is a magnet to attention, and it's working already. And I'm going to build him up so much and build up his storyline so much. I'm going to set it up where I would ask all of you, if you were one of these powerhouse schools, how long would you wait? I want you to think about that because I think it's moving. You think, well, Jeff, we're not even playing games. Yeah. The importance and the magnetism of Deion Sanders and the effect that he's having on the college game, it's already felt. Spring football is stupid. Okay, do you hear me? You learn nothing in spring football. Spring football is the driving range. Spring football is the putting green. Yeah. It's useful for football stuff. But in terms of measuring a team or a program, don't buy it. It's just a bunch of people that are bored enough to talk about college football, act like they know what they're talking about. You don't learn anything, except in Colorado's case. You learn a lot. It's exactly what I've mentioned. I think I've mentioned this before. If I didn't, I'm going to do it again. You better hire him. Somebody better hire him. You better make a run at him. I think what's interesting about Deion Sanders is not just what he's doing already at Colorado and what he can do in the next year. It's whether or not the football powerhouses, of which I'll make a quick list. I'll make a list, and one of them is Texas. Absolutely. And I'll make a quick list and say, hey, who's on the Deion Sanders watch list? Okay, back up. Think about this with Deion Sanders, okay? The college football coaching world is boring. The game, I think, is pretty boring. The game does not do much to reinvent itself. The game does not do a very good job of getting star power. It's just grumpy coaches saying nothing, really. But he is the most interesting story now and in the near future. Okay? They don't care about football, Colorado. Boulder's one of my favorite places. It feels like Austin a long time ago. It's more than that. I wouldn't care about football if I were in Colorado, and I go there pretty often. Who cares? Why would you care? Have you been? You wouldn't care. So they don't care for good reason. I think I'll snowboard or fly fish. Have a nice day. They do now. Here's something to think about. You cannot name, there's this other part of the Deion Sanders storyline and what it's doing to the college game. Longhorns, Aggies, you're on the clock. You're on the clock. Think I'm crazy. You're on the clock. But if you think about this, you cannot name a former great player who went on to be a good coach. Name one, right? I mean, name one. I mean, somebody that you can remember as a player, a really, really good player. I mean, he wasn't just a really good player. You do know he's one of the best 5 players of all time. There's not a single that I can think of. Somebody can help me with this, but right off the top of my head, there's not a single former great player that has gone on to be a successful coach in the modern I mean, Ron Rivera, who is coaching of FC Washington, Ron Rivera was a very, very good pro. He's a mediocre NFL coach. If there's a successful college coach who was a great player, go ahead and name him. Who would that be? I don't even know. You don't know. Deion Sanders wasn't just a very good pro. Okay, let's back up and understand his impact in football overall. He's the best defensive back to ever play the game. Oh, that's bull. That's crazy. That's a hot take. Shut up. It's not either. He is. I mean, listen to former pros. Listen to Michael Irvin talk sometime about players he's gone against. One of the most interesting conversations, if you're a football nerd like me, is to ask great pros, oh, yeah, who's the best you went up against? I will almost guarantee you every big-time receiver that played during the Deion Sanders time would say him. I mean, everybody. I don't know anybody that they go on and on and on about him. So he is, if you name the 5 most dynamic players in the modern game, arguably the top 5 would be this. I'm just saying dynamic players that are must watch. Think about that. Must watch. You walk by a television set, you have to stop. If the ball's coming near them, you have to stop and watch. To me, the 5 most dynamic players of the modern era are Jerry Rice, probably Lawrence Taylor, I would say Barry Sanders, Kellen Winslow, and Deion Sanders. You don't even know who Kellen Winslow is, do you? Most dynamic tight end. So what I'm saying is you don't remember superstar players that go on to be really good coaches. I'm not even sure there are very many superstar players that went on to coach at all. Now, Larry Bird, I guess, coached the Pacers for a little while, did okay. I'm setting this up to say that his star power is exactly what a college program needs. And I'm wondering if his star power, because there's stories every day. If you go to ESPN, one of the first things on the site is the first 100 days of Deion Sanders. That guy has everything filmed. He's the ultimate social media superstar coach. Where most coaches would be terrified of it. I'm just watching yesterday. I think it had something like 1 million clicks. He's walking through the weight room at Colorado, which is, I mean, look, it's nothing compared to what you would see at Texas. It's nothing compared to what you would see at Alabama. It's nothing compared to what you would see at most football factories. He's cruising through the weight room. He's wearing a black cowboy hat, a jacket. He jumps down on the bench press, okay? Deion Sanders has got to be mid-50s, right? There's 225 on, okay? None of you can do 225 once. He jumps down on the bench. He throws up 225 8 times in perfect form. I mean, the guy is, and then you click on it. Everything he does these news conferences, you click on them. He does player speeches, you click on it. So I'm getting to something. He is exactly what a college program needs. It was a brilliant hire by Colorado, and I'm wondering now, Texas, Oklahoma, A&M, and one other, you're on the clock. What if? Colorado, to put this in perspective, I'm setting this up to say, would a football factory, a boring, stuffy, old white guy football factory hire Deion Sanders. You better hurry up. Colorado averaged just over $40,000 per game at home last year. By the way, I don't believe that. If I lived in Boulder, I wouldn't go near that. Except the stadium is right on campus, and the campus is cool, and I've been fly fishing on campus. I wouldn't go to that stadium. I mean, I might pass it to go snowboard or something, but no. Why would you go to a football game there? Why? I go for a run, then get some good coffee, then fly fish, and have some beer. That's it. That's the day's over. They sold 32,000 tickets for their final game last year, and that was a home game against Utah. They lost like they did most of the time. They were 1-11 last year. They were ranked 101st in the FBS. Colorado was 123 in defense. They are horrible in football. Now they matter. University of Colorado announced yesterday it has sold out its intra-squad football game for spring training. Did you hear me? They're going to have more for spring training than they did the entire season. And he's been there 102 days. The spring football game is April 22nd. They sold more than 45,000 tickets to the spring football game. And you know why? Him. It's on ESPN. It's the only... Look, if you watch spring football, you got issues, okay? Just don't. You don't need to. You're not going to learn anything. You really are kind of have problems, okay? I mean, you are... Come on. Get out. You don't need to watch spring football games. Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, actually, I challenge you. Go watch a spring game and then just call this show. Let's start talking. I'm going to say you are a fool, okay? It's on ESPN. The game is on ESPN. It's not on ESPN 6 or 10 or whatever. It's not on ESPN Denver. It's on ESPN. They sold out their spring game. Nobody does that. Even in these southern towns where they have nothing else to do in life. And trust me, in Boulder, there's a lot to do. Especially on April 22nd. 45,000 tickets sold for their spring game. The previous high was in 2008. Colorado used to matter in football, and it's a kind of a messed up story. They were cheating, and it was ugly, and awful things happened. I think they just said after that, you know what? We don't really care much about football. It's just kind of a hassle. And then they made the brilliant hire to get him. They didn't have the money to pay him when they first hired him. 45,000 tickets sold for their spring game. The previous high, according to ESPN, was in 2008. They sold 17,800. The game, according to ESPN, will be nationally televised, the only spring game that will air on the main ESPN network. The other, Georgia, is on ESPN2. Okay, but Jeff, they haven't won anything. I know that. I'm prepping you, and I'm prepping A&M. I know you're going to say, Jeff, are you serious? Do you think in that place where Donald Trump won 98% of the vote, you think they're going to bring in Deion Sanders? No, I don't. I think you should. I'm putting him on a watch list because of this right here. College football, just like all of college sports, he is reinventing the way you go about recruiting. Star power. They matter because he's a star. He's going to out-recruit people because he's a star. I mean, he's not only that, he's really charismatic and really good at what he does. It's amazing. But he's the game's first social media rock star. And he's using it to his advantage. All I'm saying is A&M, Oklahoma, Texas, and Alabama. Laugh at me. Go ahead, start laughing. You're on the clock. I think the Big 12 should bring in Colorado right now. You know why? Enjoy what he's doing right now, because everything he touches is must watch. All right, so if they win 5 games next year, they were 1-11. I just told you they were 123 in defense. They were 101 in all of SBS. They were lucky to sell 30,000 tickets. If they win 5 games next year, it's a remarkable turnaround. It is. They win 8, it's amazing, and he's already getting money thrown his way. They win 5 next year. Play this out with me. I know you're going to think this is crazy. If they win 5 next year and 8 the next, he will be the most valuable coach in the college game. A college game that is regularly throwing $12 million a year. They threw $100 million at Lincoln Riley. Tell you what, you hire Deion Sanders, guess what happens? You sell out your spring game. Everything changes. I don't know they may not win 5. I got it. They may win 2, and all this is just a bunch of hype. It is just a bunch of star power and all that stuff. They win 5, then they win 8. Guess who's on the clock? The timing is just about right for Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama. The timing is just right. I'm projecting 2 years down the road. It may only be 1. But those programs 2 years from now, they might just be looking. And if he's at 8 wins in 2 years, they better throw the door open and go after him. Think about this. Okay, if they do that turnaround, if it happens, 5 wins, then 8 wins, then he's not going to be there long. Colorado won't be able to keep him, and I think it'll be cool to see him go elsewhere. I'm just sitting back waiting and watching to see if the stuffy, old white guy programs of Alabama, Texas, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma would make that move. Because if there's a quick turnaround at Colorado, There's no denying the impact. I just gave it to you. I just gave you all the data you need. We're just waiting on the wins now. To sell out a spring game in Boulder, Colorado is laughable. It's laughable. You know what the line will be there for autographs? No player is going to get it. Nobody knows who plays for Colorado. Everyone will be there for him. So if they make that turnaround 5 and 8, fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Which school? Texas A&M. Would they? You'll be 2 years from now. You are burned in every horrific way by Jimbo Fisher. 2 years from now. Would they? Would they? I bet not, but would they? The University of Texas, 2 years removed from Steve Sarkisian just being just Steve Sarkisian. Another 6 wins, 7 wins, blah, blah, meh. Would Texas? Would Texas? Okay, Oklahoma, Brent Venables. Yeah, there's a lot of sex appeal there, right? Would they? Would Oklahoma? And are you ready for this one? 2 years removed. Alabama, you're 2 years removed from Nick Saban. The timing would be just right. 2 years from now, that's enough for Ferrari driving Nick Saban making $12 million a year. They'll spend the money. Could you imagine them making that higher? I'm just setting it all up. You sold out spring football, so the meter is now running. I'm just wondering if these programs that I don't think they look 2 years ahead. I am, though. Any one of those 2 years from now, when they are still, outside of Alabama, still mediocre programs and they're not that good, would they look at Colorado and say, man, that's what we need?